Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Raw Daddy Hour, hosted by yours truly, Raw Daddy himself. This is your grandmama's favorite podcast, so if you're not tuned in, you're tripping. I want to introduce you guys to my guests that I have on the panel today. To my immediate left, we have Miss Nas. To my farthest left, we got Shad, the drip god. The man is always here. Nas, I'm going to start with you. I want you to introduce yourself to the people a little bit.
What up? I'm Nas, short for Nazanin. I've been living in Houston for about 2.5 years. Before that, I lived in Los Angeles for 6 years, and I'm originally from Iran. I write, I act, I model a little bit, I dabble in photography, so all kinds of just creative things. I would love to do more film. That's really my passion. So,
Love it.
Can I ask, what brought you to Houston from LA? I'm always interested to hear that direction. People leaving the city.
Facts.
So it's a long story, but basically I was at a point in my life that I just felt like it's what I needed to do. My mom lives here with my little sister and my stepdad, so they didn't always live here. So I never lived in Houston before I moved here, but it was just at a time in my life that I just intuitive. I'm a very intuitive person. I do everything in my life based on what my intuition tells me, and even if it doesn't make sense. So it's just something that I felt like it just seemed like, okay, this is what I need to do. I didn't want to do it.
I bet.
But I did it.
Big difference. So today, guys, we're talking about social media versus mental health, and should we be worried, right? We're going to kind of go through the implications that social media could have on your mental health, whether positive or negative, right? Because there probably are both. So Shad, I'm going to kick it to you first. I just want to get your overall feeling on social media and its relation to one's mental health.
Social media has definitely transformed quite a bit since like its inception. I feel like in its current state right now, I feel like, me personally, I feel like social media is doing a bit more harm than it is doing good to our society. There's a lot of statistics around how it's affecting our Gen Z population, with like suicide rates and anxiety and things like that. The numbers are actually super staggering. So yeah, right now I think it has some good attributes, but it's definitely a lot of things that need to change, both on the actual apps and things side, and also just from a cultural society side. But a lot needs to change in order for us to get in a place where it can be more of a beneficial tool than what it is right now.
How do you feel about it?
I can definitely agree with that. I do see how it does harm, and I think that what I think is that it really just reflects society, and so I feel like it's just a mirror. I feel like social media is a mirror, and it just reflects what we as a society is like, what our culture is like. So I feel like all the bad that we're seeing is just bad that is in society. So I can't blame social media for anything, because for me it's like, okay, that's a people thing, that's a culture thing, that's a society thing, that's not a social media thing. I think there's a ton of good on social media. I think there's a lot of positives. I think my thing is there's so much control to be had in social media. It's very easy to basically manufacture your social media experience for good or for worse. So I feel like if somebody is not having a good social media experience, it's very doable to change that. You can literally follow any kind of account you want, any kind of content you want. There's so much good content on there. And I'm not just talking about memes and stuff. Like, I love memes too, but it's way more than that. It's so much that I've learned from social media, so much about mental health that I've learned from social media, and that's helped me. And so I think we have to be careful about vilifying social media, because it's really not social media. It's how we use it and what we're doing with it.
I agree with both of you guys. And more, I feel like more so than a mirror, social media kind of amplifies either who you perceive yourself to be or who you want to be. And that could be, like you said, for good reasons or for bad. I also do agree with the societal point, because we kind of choose, we as society kind of choose like what type of content we inflate and hyper, push out there based on, like you said, searches and what we're looking for. So then society's like, okay, this is what they want to see, so we're going to push more of it. I definitely believe that there is a certain self-awareness or mental capability that you need to have in order to navigate social media properly and not have it negatively affect your mental health. If you don't have those tools, then it could seem like quicksand. Like, it just seemed like you're spiraling down this hole. Like we talked about the other day, you just find yourself picking the app up. You'd said, I'm done for the day. This is 2 p.m. This is my cutoff. 5 p.m. you get bored and you just find yourself on the app and you're like, dang, it's been an hour. I've been on this thing I didn't even realize it just becomes so second nature. So like you were saying, to your point about the Gen Z population, the people who they've had this in their hands since they can remember, I feel like it's a little more difficult for them to kind of like assess it the way that we do, because we kind of got to slowly, dip our toes in, kind of creep in. With them, it's like they had everything from day one: Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter, Thriller, whatever that stuff's called. They have all of it. We typically, in millennial generation, we have like one or two. I don't know many people that are just on every single social media that are in our generation. So for them specifically, I feel like they're society kind of needs to help that transition, kind of the masses. We need to help them to get to a point where they can kind of distance the reality from, like you said, this thing that you can have control over and kind of make. Shad, what has been your experience with social media and your mental health? Like, how have you ran into anything where you're just like, oh shit, I got to take a break?
Not really, because like you said, like I feel like where I'm at in my life, and when social media came along, like I've always been late to the next app. Like, I remember when I was coaching, and like my athletes were talking about like Instagram and stuff like that, and like, you should get on, and I'm like, bro, I'm not getting on. At the time, I was like, Facebook, like that's where I was living. Like, I'm not getting on that.
Dating yourself right now on Facebook.
I never had MySpace. I never did. Like, I never was really super gung ho about jumping on the newest social media app. Mm-hmm. Now with what I do with filmmaking and creating content, I am on it more prevalently, more often, and I do at times see myself spending too much time on it. As far as mental health, like as far as like the things that I consume, like the way my brain works, like mm-hmm. I'm not very easily influenced by stuff. I don't care about celebrities. I don't care about what they do in their lives or anything like that. Most people do. I don't follow a lot of celebrities. I don't care. Like, your life does not affect me. So like my own personal mental health has already been intact before I've gotten into these different apps. Mm-hmm. I feel like, again, with like the Gen Z culture, they've had it in their hand, and I feel like most people are very impressionable. They see things, they want things, and they aspire to things. I do that too, but at the same time, you can't be overconsumed with someone else's life or what someone else is doing. That's where you start running into trouble, because you're trying to mimic or replicate what they're doing. And that's when you start, battling with depression, because you feel like, oh, if Kylie Jenner or this person, this influencer posts this video or posts this picture and they got all these likes, I got to do the same thing if I want to get famous. And, you just can like you said, you spiral. So for me personally, like at times, like if I see myself spending too much time on the app, I'll turn off notifications. I'll set, guidelines for myself as far as the amount of time I spend on certain things. But I don't see myself having to do that as often because, again, like the stuff that I consume, it's not, I see certain crazy things on social media and I'm not spending no time on that. I'm not going to dive into comments and debate with anybody or anything like that because I don't care, So, yeah.
So Naz, what are some of the positive things that you've been able to take from social media?
I've been very positively influenced by a lot of different social media accounts. But the past couple of years, I've really started to follow a lot of like therapist accounts. There's a ton of like really positive mental health accounts and really dope therapists that are like putting a lot of really, really valuable content on there. It doesn't, of course, it's not a replacement for therapy. It's not the same thing. But at the same time, personally for myself, there's been a ton of content that I've seen that's like made me think about things a different way and made me like really reflect on my own self and my own life and in a good way. And that's been extremely valuable for me. On the other hand, also, I think the connections, I think it can be so good. Like, it's so much easier to connect with people, and I think that's just so valuable. Like, you can literally connect with anyone anywhere in the world now, and that's something that we didn't used to have not that long ago. So I think that is just so valuable. I also think it's been very empowering to I guess kind of like take control of what you want to put out there. I think like it's really cool that you can literally arrange your feed any way you want. You can put out anything you want. You can look back and see what you were posting 2 years ago and see like how have I grown since then. So for me, that's been very positive.
One thing I hear as a theme, like when both of you were talking about your stuff, is it's just the lens that you view it through, your perspective. And not everybody has that. And when I talk to people about, their social media accounts, specifically, I would say specifically Instagram, not so much Twitter. I think Twitter people just kind of, shoot at the wind. Nobody really cares about Facebook. They just talk to their mom and dad. But specifically Instagram, I hear a lot of people like frantically trying to get their grid in order because they feel like, it's kind of, and I won't say it's definitely not necessarily replacing it, but it's kind of becoming the new resume. Right? People come to your page, they scroll those first like 4 or 5 lines and they're like, okay, this is who
check
you are.
The followers.
Yep, exactly. They check that ratio. All right, now if you following too many, it's going to look a little crazy. So people are, at least I would say under 30, are a lot more worried about how they present because now this is becoming a first impression, right? And I think that's where it gets wild to me because I don't view people that way. Like, I'm quick to slide in somebody's DMs if I think, they have something interesting to talk about and I want to get to know them. And I'm even quicker to be like, yo, let's meet up. Like, let's go do something. Let's go get food. But that face-to-face interaction is what these younger people and even some older people don't have much experience in because it's not being required of them, right? It's not being required of them to be authentically themselves because they don't know who they are. This has been, like you said, the Kylie Jenners, like checking out what they're doing, keeping up with the Kardashians, like all this stuff has just been put in their face. Kylie Jenner just became the youngest billionaire. And so now we got people looking at that like, oh, I'm 21, still in school. Like, dang, I'm failing. You know what I mean? And it's like, yeah, that shit can get real depressing. And that grid won't show it. The grids rarely ever show who's going through what. And while, to your point, there is a lot of great content out there. There's a lot of amazing content out there. I feel like it's not pushed, though. I feel like it's not given any wings, to fly into the lives of the people that need to see it. Because when you click on one Kylie Jenner post, then you go down that rabbit hole and you just scrolling, especially now with the reels. They make it really easy for you to, I even catch myself doing it. Like, I know you don't spiral. I've definitely spiraled. I will sit there and next thing you know, I've looked through 1,000 reels and I'm just laughing and I'm like, oh shit, it's been like 3 hours. I've just been scrolling these reels, bro. Now, I look at funny content. Like, I really don't go down the depths of like conspiracies or like idolizing people, but I do definitely, there have been times I'm just like, I need to turn my notifications off. I've already turned off like likes, comments, messages. I've already turned that stuff off because I know me, if I pick it up, even if the intent is to look at a message, I gotta go see if there's some funny stuff on there, man, because I need my fix, so to speak. So, yeah.
So here's my other question. Like I have a thought and a question around that. What about some of the onus that needs to be put on the tech companies? And what I mean is algorithms. So it's gotten to the point now where if you're scrolling and you don't double tap it, you don't comment, if you spend a certain amount of time on an ad or a picture, when you open your app, you see the explore page and you see a ton of stuff. Sometimes it's unintentional. You could be sitting there and you be watching TV and on an app, and you stop on something, you're watching TV, and the next thing you know, you open your app and on explore page, you see some. I'm like, why is this? Why am I seeing this right now? You know, and like again, like I've watched a few like big tech people kind of talk about like how they feel like again the tech companies need to be held accountable for that primary reason, because they're getting to the point now where they're even starting to insert things that you don't even like subscribe to. It's like they're trying to test the waters. So it's like when you start getting to that point where you're kind of infiltrating people's devices and trying to change thought process and things like that, it's getting to a dangerous point, and like you said, I feel like we need to find a way for the people who don't necessarily have the tools to disconnect or navigate safely. We got to find a way for them to gain those tools so they're able to use these things responsibly and then not negatively impact their lives.
I don't know how realistic it is to get these tech companies to get on board, because I mean,
they're not doing it.
Dude, like, look at the newest update to Instagram. Now it's a shopping center.
Yeah.
Now Instagram is a mall, and now I don't see my followers' content. The people that I'm following, I barely see their content, but I can see all the famous people, and that's what I meant about the good content not getting any wings. Like you said, now they're inserting stuff.
Yeah, it's studies show that like the drama or like the problematic posts on social media reach, I think it was like 7 or 10 times further than the more positive type of content, and that's a problem. Like, and you can see it in traditional news. Like, what does traditional news really kind of harp on most times? It's the negative things, the things that are problematic. It's no different than, that stuff just has wheels and it just goes a lot further. So that's why I think the onus needs to be on like the person, that the mental development, the emotional development, to be able to like manage these things and like say, hey, like, all right, I need to chill, I need to turn this off, I need to subscribe to more positive things, unsubscribe from like these things like Shade Room and all these like negative pages and social media content, because again, it's everyone's talking about it. It's the fear of missing out and not knowing. You got to be able to like just be able to live in the moment and just do what makes you happy amongst all. There's nothing wrong with being informed, but at the same time, like when you start seeing yourself spiraling, you see news on a celebrity, you click on their page, and you start scrolling through their page and trying to decipher what you think happened. Like, why are you doing that? Like, why are you like what's the point? So that's just how I feel about like, again, because I know you said like don't vilify. Be careful with not vilifying social media and things like that, but at the same time, like, they're making it very hard. They're like, the companies make it very hard to kind of separate the two.
I think that they're really just doing what reflects, again, real life. Like you're saying, the news is the same way. I think real life is like that. Like, if you look at the average person, do they enjoy doing what's good for them or what's fun more? Like, do people like eating healthy or do they like eating fast food, or not even just fast food, but things that aren't that good for you, but it tastes good. So it's like, do people like gossiping in real life? Of course, because it's fun. It's like a distraction. So I feel like, yes, I do definitely think that tech companies do need to be held to a higher standard and needs to be acting in integrity. And I definitely don't think they are. I don't think most big companies act in integrity, but that's a whole other thing. I I think what you were saying about like it's up to each individual, that's totally true. I completely agree. It's definitely about accountability and self-awareness. I'm really huge on self-awareness because it's really made such a big difference in my own life in so many ways. And I think that if you don't have self-awareness, if you're not being mindful about the things that you do, the content that you consume, the foods that you eat, the people you talk about, the things you talk about, not just on social media, but in real life, I think that's where it becomes dangerous, because you're literally just at the mercy of whatever you're surrounded by, rather than looking at it and being like, okay, do I want this influence? Is this a good influence on me or not? So I think that's really the issue, is that people, I think, lack self-awareness. People lack mindfulness. People lack the ability to just be with themselves without distractions, without having to be entertained constantly, without having to be distracted from their own self. And I think that's really the biggest issue, is that people don't know anymore how to just literally be with themselves. It's like, even when you're driving in the car, it's like, can you just drive and just be with your own self, or do you have to listen to music, or do you have to listen to radio? Like, most people,
Don't
they
be coming at my
can't, right?
music, man.
And that's fine. Like, music is great. I love listening to music too, but sometimes you
Listen
have
to
to,
your
like,
stomach.
especially if you're going through something mentally or emotionally that's like very uncomfortable, which of course, like, who isn't? Like, who's like just happy all the time? I think especially in this day and age, I think almost everyone, if not, yeah, I think most people, if not everyone, is dealing with uncomfortable things in their head and their heart. And I think we're just looking for distractions because we don't know how to deal with it, and we don't want to deal with it. So I think social media is a really top-notch distraction because it's an endless amount of content and you don't have to think about it. You could literally, just like you're saying, you can just scroll, you can just get lost in any type of content that you want. I think that's where we have to get careful, is we have to teach ourselves and each other how to be mindful, how to, just be able to just be in the stillness, just be with yourself and not have any like distraction. I think that's really huge. I think that's definitely not taught for most kids in school, by parents, anywhere. We're not taught like how to deal with uncomfortable feelings. We're taught to suppress our feelings. We're taught to distract ourselves from our feelings, and we're not taught, how to, okay, I'm dealing with this. Let me not ignore it. Let me not push it down. Let me like actually just sit with it and figure out what's going on. I think that's really the biggest issue. And I honestly, I'm not sure if it's more so Gen Z. I think, yes, absolutely, they have grown up more with technology than we have, for sure. And it is harder for them to know anything different because that's all I've known. But at the same time, I'm not sure if they're dealing with that false reality more than millennials. I think millennials are honestly, and older people, I think they're the ones that are kind of more like into like the game of it, like into like the impressions, like wanting to come off a certain way. I honestly feel like, from what I've seen, a lot of Gen Z kids, I see more authenticity with them, to be honest with you. I see more of like them just kind of accepting each other. And I think that's one good thing about their culture, their generation, is that they're more likely to, I think they're a little bit more likely than millennials and older generations, for sure, to accept mental health issues, to talk about things, to accept each other. I think they're more likely to not try to be perfect. I think they're kind of they're really good at like accepting their own faults and like kind of making light of it, making a joke of it. I feel like they love to like joke about everything. I really see in our generation people like trying to be perfect, trying to come off a certain way on social media.
I think for our generation, that doesn't come from social media though. Our generation, it came from our parents. It came from being forced to go to college, being forced to go down a certain career path. So now by the time we're able to do what we want, we're 30. So we have to, or we don't have to, but we have this perception based on what we were taught being raised that, well, by 30, you're supposed to have a house and you're supposed to have kids and you're supposed to have all this. So now we have not only the pressures of who's viewing our screens, but also who's in our homes. And I think that's the biggest difference between our gen and their gen is like you said, they are more accepting of it because it's accepted. For us, for many a years, it was not accepted to be an influencer. It was not cool to be on YouTube. It was not cool to actually care about your Instagram feed. Like that stuff was not cool. Like what we do was not cool 8 years ago. So I think for us, the burden didn't necessarily come from social media. It's, like you said, a reflection of what pressures were put on us from different forces or whatever you want to call it. Shad, you look like you got a thought. What you brewing on over there?
I got a lot of thoughts. I'm gonna suppress them.
Don't suppress them, man. Let them out. It's the Raw Daddy hour.
Yeah, I'm on the other side of the fence. I think Gen Z is a lot more superficial, a lot more impressionable. They want to look the part. A lot of it is, I think a lot of Gen Z that are on social media, a lot of it is superficial, like, and I'm saying this because I've worked with kids for like years, and I know I have conversations with them. Like as a teacher, you hear the kind of stuff that they want. Like I've had in elementary school kids talk about how they want to be like this person, or they perceive this person to be rich because they have this on YouTube. Oh, this person is rich because they have like all these games and this and this on YouTube, or this, like, they're, again, them having these things when they're, again, able to start using these apps and go on different sites and stuff like that, and they start consuming these things and formulating their own ideas of what is the ideal lifestyle and things like that, like, and not having someone to kind of like bring them back down to reality, it's dangerous. Like I honestly truly feel like that it's dangerous. Like I can recall conversations I've had with like third graders, sitting down with them and talking about who they want to be like and why they want to be like this person, because they feel like they have all this money and this, that, and the third. And then years later, you see that this person's actually broke. They don't have any money, or they were scamming or doing something like that. And like you said, it's amplified because when we were coming up, we didn't have the accessibility to see 10, 15, 20 people who were influencers who were faking it for Instagram or YouTube. We only saw how did we even see these people? Music videos. Now, like, people can literally, like, these kids can literally go on YouTube, find one influencer who collabs with another influencer, and then they get on their page, they subscribe to them, and now next thing you know, they're following 10 people who they think are the most popping people in the world, when really, they ain't shit.
All live in the same house.
Exactly. And it's like, so for me, that's why I feel like it, again, it's nothing wrong with aspiring and having a goal, or like saying that you want, like, if you want to be a gamer, or like you want to be like a big influencer who specializes in tech stuff, that's great. But you got to have some real conversation around what really goes into getting there, and not just thinking that it's this superficial way to make it on YouTube, or make it as a social an influencer in whatever field that you want to influence people in. So again, like, that's like, Like, and again, and that's not saying that millennials don't have their issues as well. Like we definitely got,
Yeah,
we
because
definitely got some
I feel like
issues.
we invented the hustle culture. Like we're the ones that were like, we invented the whole like gotta hustle, like gotta grind, like gonna be
Hustling
our
been
own
around
boss.
for
Like,
years,
but
though.
hustling,
That's been around for ages.
I feel like hustling and creating a life that is not yours is two different things.
Two different things.
And also to another point, I feel like we hustle to more attainable goals than they do. Like you said, when you're looking at these people like Ami with the Hellcat, they're like these guys that, oh, he's got 12 cars and he has 1 million subscribers on YouTube, but he doesn't own that stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
We aspired to be like Floyd Mayweather, who actually owns his stuff, made his money honestly. Like, I feel like that's two completely different things. Like, to aspire to be like Jay-Z and to aspire to be like this YouTuber that you saw that drives around in Teslas and interviews people, but really he doesn't own the Tesla, he rents it, and then like you don't have a proper perception of what he does is going to yield. So then when you get there, you get your YouTube channel, you start getting your subscribers, and you're like, why am I not making thousands of dollars? I have 400K. What's going on? Like, where's the money? That's when the depression starts, because now you are completely let down based on this ideology that you've had in your mind of how life is supposed to go once I get to this place. One thing I will credit the older generation is, if you go work at a factory, you're going to make X amount of dollars and what your life is going to look like. So them pushing us to live more of a cookie cutter life, at least we knew what we were going to get out of that, and we're able to make the right choice to say, no, I want to go be an entrepreneur. I want to go be an influencer. I feel like with them, they don't have accurate role models or accurate depictions of what life will be like if they take a certain path. So what that does is it makes everyone try to fake it harder. I'm trying to fake it harder than you. YouTube is the worst place. YouTube is the worst
dangerous
place because these dudes, in the title, I just bought a mansion.
It's dangerous,
bro. You toured a mansion that you got a real estate agent to take you to.
Dangerous.
And you just told all these 15-year-olds that you just bought a mansion because of YouTube.
It is scary, man.
That is scary.
I think I definitely see what you're saying. However, I have an issue with even our role models. I think even that's dangerous. Mm-hmm. I don't necessarily think the dangerous part is when they realize they can't make that much money doing what they think they should do. I think the dangerous part is the fact that they think they should even necessarily aspire to make that much money. And they think that their happiness and their feeling of fulfillment and success is going to come from that. I think that's the issue. And again, that's a society thing. That's a family thing. That's a parenting thing. That's just a cultural thing. I for sure see our generation trying to be what we're not also. Especially when I lived in Los Angeles, being, in the industry, I see that all the time, people trying to front they really got it popping more than it really is. They're really doing more than what, they really try to, I feel like that's the real issue, is that people think that you have to have a certain thing, you have to have a certain lifestyle, you have to have a certain amount of income in order for you to feel successful. I think that's the issue. That's the whole underlying thing. And even if we take social media away, I still think, yes, social media does amplify it for sure. But it's not like it doesn't exist without social media. So I feel like that's really the biggest issue, is again, the self-awareness thing, the being able to just accept ourselves the way we are, knowing where true fulfillment should come from. I've really, the past couple of years, I've really started to think more and more about just having role models and who my role models are. Because at the end of the day, we don't know these people. Even Jay-Z, Floyd Mayweather, we don't know them. We don't know how they act in real life to their, when they're behind the cameras. We don't really know all that stuff. So at the end of the day, I have an issue with that as well. Whether it's a YouTuber or whether it's someone that went a more traditional, successful route, they can both be dangerous. I think ultimately it's just so important that we first of all, just with ourselves, really take an honest look with ourselves. What do I think I need to be happy? And is that really true? because I think a lot of times people are not happy. I think most people are not happy. And so they think that, okay, if I have this, then I'll be happy because I see this person have this and they seem happy. And then they get it and they realize, I'm still not happy. Like that, okay, so maybe I need this to be happy. And it's like, it doesn't come from outside. Happiness is not, as cliche as it is, happiness does not come from anything external. It's 100% internal. And I think as long as we're chasing anything external, I think that's where it's dangerous. And yeah, I think the reason why positive stuff doesn't get pushed on social media is that people are addicted to the mess. People are addicted to,
Yes,
the drama and
yep.
the problematic things and like the funny stuff. That's just way more easy to consume, it seems like, because it's a distraction. The positive stuff, it's positive because it's not that much of a distraction. It pushes you more towards your own self. People don't want that. People are looking for a way to escape themselves. And so I think as long as we as a society give kids and ourselves a reason to escape, then they're always going to be looking for these things.
So my follow-up to that would be, what do you think that we could do as a society to start to help people go to a place where they're more self-aware? And the second part of that question is going to be, do you think that's attainable with social media in their life while they're trying to go through that journey?
I think, speaking for myself, I think it definitely is attainable because I have done that. I think I'm extremely self-aware now, and I'm still working on that to become more self-aware. But I definitely haven't always been self-aware. I think even just a few years ago, I was extremely not self-aware. I was very much asleep. I was very much not really connected to my true self. I wasn't connected to my body. I wasn't connected to my mind. I really believe in the mind-body connection. I think that's definitely one way that we can help each other to just be more present and be more self-aware. I think that's really important. So I personally, I've started to do a lot more breath work. I've started to do more meditation. When I say meditation, I don't mean like I'm sitting there in silence for an hour, because I think a lot of people get intimidated when they hear that. I can't. I know some people can do that, but I can't do that yet. It's hard. You can start with like literally 3 minutes, 5 minutes of literally I'm just going to sit here, close my eyes, and just listen to the sounds around me and think about what's really going through my head, and not try to change what I'm thinking, but just pay attention to what I'm thinking, and just focus on my breath, like breathe in, breathe out, just for 5 minutes a day. I think that itself is a huge thing that will make a big difference for a lot of people. It made a big difference for my own life. And so I think that's one easy way to do it. Everyone has 5 minutes. But I think, again, the biggest issue is that people are trying to escape. So I think that we really need to push accepting our experiences, accepting our emotions. I think millennials for sure grew up, and older generations. I feel like the more we go up in generations, the bigger this problem is. But we grew up not being told that we shouldn't feel a certain way. We weren't, I don't think most of us, like, our negative emotions were necessarily accepted. We weren't told, like, oh, if you're sad, like, don't worry, like, you can cry, like, you can let's think about it, like, what exactly is making you sad, and it's okay that you're sad about that, like, that makes perfect sense that made you sad, like, that's okay. We weren't told that growing up, and so that's why people don't know what to do when they feel sad. They don't know what to do when they feel depressed, because we were never taught. So we need to teach first ourselves that, and then each other. I really think it's true that, like, we change the world by changing ourselves. So, when we ourselves are comfortable with our pain, we're comfortable with our, negative experiences, we can accept it, then the less we need to escape. There is something to be said about, like, the addiction part, and that's absolutely true. And I'm very curious it is something that worries me too. I think that, there's like the blue light thing, there's like the electronic aspect of social media. I'm curious to see in many years from now, I think we're going to realize that itself harmed us a lot. But as far as just social media, I think it's just people need to figure out ways to deal with uncomfortable things without needing to escape, without needing to suppress their feelings. I think that there's so much pain in the world. There's so much discomfort, so much negative. There's just a ton of pain. And it is hard if you don't know how to deal with it. What are you going to do? Of course, you're going to try to numb yourself, distract yourself.
Shad, you touched on the really little ones, right? Talking about having conversations with third graders. So what are some things you think we could put into place, talking about being a part of the education system, to kind of, like she said, it's not taught, the self-awareness and all that stuff. How can we help them at those younger ages, or maybe what programs or something that we could, get going?
So I'm gonna say something. I'm gonna answer that question, but then I'm also the realist in me has to say something as well. So the school that I'm in, we've actually started to introduce like self-awareness, like curriculum, self-awareness, mindfulness training, these type of things with like, again, pre-K kids, first grade, kindergarten, like, so, and I know that there are other school districts across the United States who do these type of things. I think that's a good step. It also needs to be done in the home as well. I feel like parents, because again, kids are, mostly influenced by their teachers and by their friends, but also like, your parents, have a huge influence over your life. Having conversations, having, discussion, dialogue about feelings and things, the emotional connections and things like that you speak of, Nas, like those things are super important. The realist in me doesn't think that anything will change. I think it's going to get worse. I look at how technology is only we at the tip of the iceberg when it comes to technology. We're looking at, like you said, looking at the type of app updates, these companies are doing, looking at how they're changing algorithms, looking at the type of things that they're doing with these apps and making them more addictive. And when you think about human beings and like addictive personalities and, addictive traits, like you said, we all have done it. Pick up the app, and next thing you know, you're on it for like 2-3 hours, and you like, yo, where has time gone? It is innate at this point. Money runs the world. Money runs the world. When you look at how politics, businesses are integrating technology, integrating social media into what they do, it's not going anywhere. It's only going to get bigger. It is only going to get bigger. People it's to the point now where people are literally getting their news from social media. They're not watching CNB, they're not watching NBC, they're not watching CNBC. They're watching Instagram, Twitter. Sometimes getting their information from people who aren't even in media, like through hearsay. It's like this is their way of being connected to what's going on. Technology being more accessible to people in third world countries. Like, I feel like and again, making the world smaller, being able to see what's going on in Russia or China, and them showing, riots. Like, let's be real. When you were a kid, do you recall seeing any like war stuff or like anything crazy happening like that in another country on the news on a daily basis? Now, like, you can literally see that stuff every single day. And if you look at it one time, the algorithm does the math, and next thing you know, that's the type of stuff that's popping up on your feed. I feel like there are things that we can do, and I feel like we can have effect and impact on a small sample size. But if I'm honest with myself, I honestly think that it is only going to get worse. And I can't say I have a solution. I honestly can't say I have a solution.
It's got to get worse before it gets better.
I'll take that.
And that's how we go end it, man. I want to thank you guys for tuning in to another episode to the Raw Daddy Hour, man. It's going to get worse before it gets better. Should we be worried? You let us know down in the comment section. I want to thank my guests for coming on, Nas, Shad. I really appreciate you guys.
Thank y'all.
And we'll see you on the next one.